In every age, there is at least one group of people who sacrifice themselves for the good of our nation. Such people are our veterans. My grandfather, Kenneth Dauber, was one such veteran. He started in the Navy in the year 1956 and served until 1960. He was 18 when he went in for service. This was something very new to him. Being he lived just like any other person, the new schedule in the military was going to be quite different. The first day of arrival, all the men lined up to get their eyes, fat content, and body health checked out. They received their uniforms as well, along with all their clothing. When they arrived at the first station, he was slightly surprised at the sleeping quarters, or the barracks. It wasn't really a bad surprise, though. They were expecting really rough conditions, but actually, the beds were comfortable and it was only slightly crowded. There were around 80 men per barrack. This sounds like a lot, but it still wasn't very crowded. The food was also a fear of some men. Was it going to be even edible was the question for some. The answer for this is that the food was actually the exact same as what you would eat here at home. But after all the housing and eating, there was always the job and the work. He was given a gun and learned how to clean and use it, and then he was assigned a position. He was trained how to be an airplane mechanic. He would repair and buff up the planes on a regular basis. The planes he would work on didn't really specify. If it had something wrong with it, that's what he was there for. He'd be outside every day in the blistering heat working on every part of the plane, from engines to the landing wheels. If he messed up his job at all, he would hear from his sergeant.
Well, when you're working on airplanes, you had to be extremely careful. I mean, you were responsible for every life that went up in that airplane. So, when you did your job, you had to do it extremely well and make sure it was right. There's no room for error.
The sergeants were as they were supposed to be, mean as all get out. They yelled and they were good at it.
Well, that was their job. They were mostly nasty most of the time. They weren't there to make friends, they were there to make men out of boys.
Everyone had the initial boot camp. This boot camp was very difficult, especially in the dog days of the summer when it was pushing high 90s. After this, Mr. Dauber still continued training and working to stay in shape and stay strong as a bull. But even muscular strength didn't help him with watch duty. He had to sit out for hours on end with absolutely nothing to do. Imagine, sitting in a chair and trying to pay attention to all of your surroundings for about 8 hours in the dead of night. Now imagine doing this without anything to do and the knowledge that if you fell asleep, you would pay severely for it the next day. Even after all the seriousness of the military, there was still free time for fun. He would play cards with his friends, drink with his friends, and just talk with everyone to pass the time. They would also play practical jokes, such as my grandpa and some of his friends signed up their sergeant for the Lonely Hearts Club. This name is slightly explanatory, but I would figure this is how the men got women while they were in the military. Apparently their sergeant wasn't very happy about this. Mr. Dauber was away for 4 years. He wasn't only stationed in the United States. He was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and in the Patuxent River, Maryland. So he also got to do quite a bit of traveling and sightseeing. The military can be a completely opinionated experience, but for Mr. Dauber, it was a great experience. He said himself, it turns the boys into men. And when I asked him if it was an overall worthwhile experience, he said, I didn't regret it at all, and if I could go back and change my mind of joining, I would have kept my answer the same. So he liked the military, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one. It really did mature the boys into men and teach them valuable disciplinary lessons for later in life, which is why more young men should join the military. Even though it comes with its risks, it would still provide them with morals for later in life that wouldn't be available anywhere else but in the military.
My motivation was to know that someday I'd be going home for good and all my time be served.